What up, friends? Welcome to the second ever NazFlix. I am hosting this screening series today at Lionsgate, and I'm about to show a film called She Rides Shotgun, which stars Taron Egerton, who I am so excited to interview. I have never interviewed him before, and he completely blew me away in the Kingsman films, as Elton John in Rocketman, in Tetris, Blackbird, Smoke. He's in so many projects like Eddie the Eagle that I love, and he is so stellar in this film. I can't wait for you guys to watch the Q&A and to host people here. I feel like tonight's going to be really special, and I can't wait to bring you guys along for the ride. Thank you for being my shotgun riders. Here we go. All right, Taron Egerton, everybody. Because this is my good side.
Hey. Hi.
Wow.
Shit.
What?
Hello.
It's kind of loud.
Thank you so much for coming to watch our film. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
We love you. You know, Taron, it's not every day I get to sit down with a distinguished Welshman.
Yes, right. Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad to be able to oblige.
Yeah. And you're actually the first actor I've gotten to interview that is the same exact age as me. Fun fact.
10th of November?
Yeah. No, just the same age as me.
Oh, the same age,
yeah.
35.
But I know you're a Scorpio. No, we're 25, obviously.
25,
yeah.
right. Sorry,
yeah.
I am struggling to keep up with it.
I know, I'm throwing you a lot of curveballs here. So another fun fact about me that I was just sharing with you is that I've always wanted to go to Wales. And I was hoping that I could ask you a couple questions about your upbringing before we dive into She Rides Shotgun, because I feel like our upbringing really informs our work. So you grew up in a small town, population's like 3,000 people. And that town is called, what is it called, Taron?
It's called and that says Wales.
Hot. That's so hot.
Is it?
It is. And is it true that in this town or where you grew up, there's like groups of men that just break out into song in pubs and stuff?
That's definitely a feature of Welsh culture. It doesn't happen as much as it used to, but yeah, a little bit.
I found that so fascinating that you grew up around so many performers and singing, and I know that male choirs are a tradition in Wales.
That's right.
And so you got into singing and acting when you were a teenager, but there was a moment where you almost didn't pursue it. At least that's what this guy told me that wanted to ask you a question about it.
Hello, Taron. How wonderful to be connecting with you again after all these years. I've got so many fantastic memories of your contribution to the life of our school, especially our productions. One memory that sticks out was when I was your head of sixth form and you'd had some pretty bad news, I think, in terms of your college choices, and we were trying to decide, was acting the right choice for you? Well, I think we're both very relieved that you did make the right choice. One skill that you've shown since, perhaps, is your singing. And I wonder if you had the opportunity to meet Mrs. Leggett, our director of music, today, what would you say to her now? Very, very best wishes to you and your family, Taron, and I look forward to maybe meeting you again in Aberystwyth very soon. Best wishes.
Wow. Mr. Brown, ladies and gentlemen. That's really lovely. Wow, how on earth did you manage that? I'm a bit in shock.
A lot of 6 a.m. calls to the UK.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually remember that conversation because I when I was in sixth form, I wasn't a wallflower. I was a loud, rambunctious kind of lad, and I had wanted to pursue. I decided that I wanted to pursue acting, and Mr. Brown. I remember talking to Mr. Brown about it, and there's always I think people in that position are duty bound to remind you that it's a precarious career at best. But yes, I did ignore him and decided to go for it. But that's lovely. What's really troubling about that clip is he might now look younger than me.
You know what's wild about you saying that is he's kind of hot.
Yeah,
Like-
and do you know what? His wife was also a teacher at the school.
He had to bring up his wife.
Oh my god.
Oh, she's hot too.
Oh my god. Yeah,
Really?
Mrs. Brown. Yeah, we all
No
got
way.
we all got flushed over Mrs. Brown.
Dude,
Yeah.
Mr. Brown.
Mrs. Brown sounds like a song as well, right?
It does. Or
Yeah,
you
me
wanna-
and Mrs. No,
You
we're
want to
not
say?
going
Oh,
there.
okay. You know, it's funny you say that because the way you guys speak over there is so romantic. I almost fell in love with him. I felt like I was in Pride and Prejudice. He said to me at one point, "Remember me to Taron." And I was like, what a dope way of saying, say hi to Taron for me. I was like,
No, we don't talk that way. That's just him.
it's so beautiful. But I really am fascinated by the use of language across the pond. And I did a lot of research on the Welsh language. It's older than the English language. And your name, Taron, actually means thunder in Welsh.
Yeah.
And I thought, what a fitting name for you, because that's exactly how you feel on screen. You are
stop it.
sudden, you are explosive, you're impossible to ignore. I feel like there's a readiness to your work, and we really feel it in this movie where you bring Taron, truly, you bring this full body heart, full body presence. You never phone it in. There's an urgency to the way you show up. And I wanted to ask you, where do you think that sense of energetic commitment comes from? Is that something you consciously summon, or does it kind of just happen when you're in it?
That's such a lovely thing to say. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I don't know. The movie is about urgency in some ways, and I think one of the things that I most like about Nate is that he is, in some respects, he's the moment he steps on screen. The way I always thought of him is that he's kind of a dead man walking. He's sort of feels like a guy who's given up for whatever reason. He doesn't feel. I think he's got very low self-worth. You get a flavor of and some indication maybe that his older brother was overbearing and maybe led him down a path he didn't want to go on, and ended up in prison. Made a bunch of mistakes, and the movie is kind of about a guy who is. I don't even think he's cognizant of the fact that he's going to do one last good thing. I actually think his body is doing it and his brain is catching up, which is why there are these moments in the film when this fully realized human being that he had a hand in creating is there in front of him. And there are moments where he sort of goes, "Oh my God, you're real, you're here," and those are my favorite moments in the movie. Anyway, in answer to your question, it's a really lovely compliment and I really appreciate it. But whenever I'm on set and whenever I'm making a movie, it always feels like your life depends on it. It always feels like in that moment, it is the most important thing. And if I can't find a way of making it the most important thing, it won't be good. It just won't be good. And, there are moments where I've fallen short of that in my career because, we all do at times. We're all human and you can't always arrive at the optimal level you want to. But those are the moments where the work hasn't been good. And it just so happens that with this movie, from the moment I read it, from the moment I met Nick, who directed the film, and from the moment I met Ana, it felt like it meant the world to me, and it still does. And look, we all know the landscape of making movies like this now, and its fate will be what it is, and it's very possible that it doesn't get seen by as many people as, of course, I'd like. But this will always be one of the most important things I've done. It just is. I just love this project, and I'm glad that you feel that way, because that's the stakes are very high for Nate in the film. Of course, they're as high as they can be, and I guess the stakes are very high for me as an actor as well, because I just love the project.
I love to hear you say that, because you've come a long way from the way you described yourself.
I don't know. It feels like a huge question. I don't know. I'm just like any other actor in this town. I'm just somebody who's trying to express myself through the characters I pick, and I try and pick the things that feel like they move me, and they're the things that I would want to watch, and things that align with my taste. And increasingly, as the further I go along, I try and make choices that are about spending my time with people I care about and I feel creatively aligned with. And, you know, just before you and I entered, he's going to fucking hate this, but Nick Rowland is sat there, who directed the movie. And he and I have, and, you know, I'm just in the business of trying to work with people who I love and with people who I think are great artists. And I don't know. I've definitely dodged your question, but
that's good.
I think I did it quite well.
No, you did. You embody it in the characters that you pick. So let's talk about that, because I heard you say in an interview once that anyone that knows you knows you're not a bad guy, but you do believe you can play one, and you play one so well. And Roger, if we can pull up my third clip, you are an executive producer in all of these projects, and I noticed that you've been really playing in the prestige drama space. What is it about the American bad boy that you love so much, Taron? Because you're so good at it.
I don't know.
No, come on, you do know.
I don't know. I think I probably have a slightly faltering sense of my own masculinity, and a slightly faltering sense of my own self-image, maybe a little bit, and all of these guys have that as well. So that's probably what they have, and I'd say that the American bad boy thing is probably more incidental. He has, you know, absolutely no idea who he is, and it's pouring out of him in the most toxic way possible. And this guy is filled with self-loathing, but just trying to do one half decent thing before his life ends. And he's like a narcissist who's never thought about anyone other than himself until he meets a serial killer who makes him realize there are other people in the world, you know? So I mean, I'm not those things, but I think what they each share is probably a kind of a lack of knowledge of self, maybe.
That's beautiful. I want to pull up, because you're such a good tough guy, I want to pull up a clip of my favorite tough guy that you've ever played.
This isn't going to be good.
And that's Johnny the gorilla from Sing. If you guys have never seen Sing, I love animation as much as you do. I know you're obsessed with it. This is an incredible film. If you guys have never seen it, Johnny the gorilla has a father who is a criminal and is in jail and wants Johnny to follow in his footsteps of being a criminal. And Johnny doesn't want to. And I thought, Taron, how utterly fascinating that in She Rides Shotgun, you are now a father who was in jail and a criminal and essentially training his daughter in the life of crime. Super random. Did you ever reflect on Johnny the gorilla as you were diving into Nate?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Okay. Thank you, Johnny the gorilla,
Yes,
for being up here with us.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, there's a freshness to it that I felt like you embodied, Taron. And the story's fresh because, one, it's told from Polly's perspective.
Yes.
But it's also fresh because you have this uncanny ability to be extremely threatening and tender in the same breath. And I felt it when Nate tells Polly, I'm not a monster, I'm not going to hurt you. I was like so scared of Nate and yet so heartbroken for him at the same time. And you do that so effortlessly. How do you walk that line, is Nate?
Well, because, like, you know, the thing about being the face of any project is that you get a wonderful compliment like that, but ultimately it is the personality of the filmmaker who ends up on screen, and that duality, that tenderness versus that hardness is certainly something I'm drawn to, but it's absolutely baked into what interests Nick as a filmmaker, and it's something we talked about a lot at the start of the process. It's something that I thought was very, very beautiful about his film Calm with Horses, which was called A Shadow of Violence here, starring Cosmo Jarvis and Barry Keoghan. It features an incredible performance by Cosmo Jarvis, which is both really... there's a brutality and a violence that simmers under the surface of it, but he's also painfully vulnerable. And those performances and the commonality in theme and character traits is entirely shepherded by what Nick is interested in as a filmmaker. You know, there was a very different version of this movie, which was much more down the line, I would say, and it was not, you know, much more archetypal, much more kind of obviously heroic, I suppose, but what I think Nick and I both really loved was, and that thing about being a monster, I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that was something that grew from conversations Nick and I had about, the character needing to, in the first instance, there has to be some redemption in it for him, and he believes that the choices he's made make him despicable, and we're all kind of battling our demons, and we all, every day we all wake up and there's something we hate, or there's something we wish we hadn't done, and there's something we punish ourselves for, and I think part of the journey is being able to overcome those voices, and as corny as it sounds, accept yourself and love yourself. And Nate is weirdly at a point where he's really, I think, about to fall off the deep end, and this kind of becomes his, it does feel like a dying man's quest, but I can't remember what you asked.
No, you answered it perfectly. And I love that you brought up duality and that it lives within all of us. And Nick, you slayed that in the film. I thought it was so beautiful. I think of the establishing shot of Polly waiting for her mom to pick her up from school. It's so haunting. Nate shows up in the car. We see half of his face. The audience is like, what's going to happen? We're scared for her to get in the car. And then the duality throughout of like, did he kill her mother? Is he actually trying to protect her? And then down the line, is this a bad guy? Is this guy actually a sheriff? You guys really played with duality so beautifully.
Thanks. Yeah, we wanted to try and look, it's not particularly commercial angle on the film because it feels like she's being abducted at the start of the story, but it was the choice that to myself and Nick felt most rich. It felt the most high stakes. It felt the most challenging and engaging, and it is uncomfortable. It's of course we are hardwired to feel discomfort when a child is in danger, but it's inherently very dramatic and exciting, I think, and very your perception evolves, and I think that's an interesting place to be as an audience member. It's a relatively simple story, but we sought to tell it with as much kind of care and sensitivity, and tried to avoid, the kind of tropes of an action genre or of an archetypal hero. He never looks very happy about the fact he's having a fight. He never revels in it. There's only one moment in the movie when Nate really looks like he's kind of proud of himself, and it's just before he's about to try and rob my God, what is it? Convenience store, gas station thing. And the way that we always thought about that, or the way that I always thought about it certainly, was that it's his one chance in the chaos of the movie to share a piece of who he is with his daughter. And it may be really ugly. He may kind of not probably be that proud of it, but it's like, this is who I am. I'm going to show you the one thing I can do. And it's kind of tragic. The one thing he can do is scream in an innocent woman's face. It's ugly and it's dark and it's grim, but I don't know. To me, it all just felt very weirdly beautiful. And Nick, was very committed to the idea that you mentioned, where it would be viewed through the eyes of a child. So there's, at Charlotte's house, there's a very grown-up conversation happening in the background, but she's obsessed with these, with these hermit crabs, and I don't know. It's just my taste, this film. I like this film.
We love it too. I'm obsessed with it. And I the part that I love about it most is the dynamic between you and this insane talent that is Ana Sophia Heger as Polly. I mean, you guys, she applause.
Yeah.
Carries this movie with you.
Yeah.
She plays so many different layers.
It's her film, She really is. She's extraordinary.
And she's 11 now. She must have been, what?
She was 10.
10 when you guys shot it. She plays so many layers to Polly's softness. She challenges Nate. She's also a parent to Nate. I love that moment.
Absolutely.
When he's like, your friends are never there when you need them. And she's like, come, guess what flavor potato chip this is. I actually felt like she was your daughter.
The math. The math was
that was the first thing we shot,
And I'd done a screen test with her, and I'd obviously hung out with her, and we got on set that day, and we were shooting that scene with the math, and it was like she just was bang,
Just
straight in, ready to go, ready to roll with improvisation, ready to challenge me. You know, she's just got an innate ability. It's kind of weird, but she's amazing. You know, she really is amazing, and she's a really joyous person to be around. She's old beyond her years. So it's quite amazing to work with her.
You said this beautiful thing about working with her in the film. You said, I cannot recall a happier or more soul-enriching experience than making She Rides Shotgun. It was possibly the happiest 5 weeks of my life, and it is without a doubt the most tender and felt relationship I have had with an actor on screen. And I wanted to talk to you about tenderness because my favorite scene is when Nate is cutting Paulie's hair.
Yeah.
And it's really a testament to your direction, Nick, because I could tell that you really let them play around in that scene. I could tell the cameras are really light. And there's just a realness and a rawness. And there's so much trust that must have had to gone into that, because I don't trust anyone cutting my hair. How did you build trust with Ana?
Yeah, it's a really unusual situation to be in as an adult man, to have to find this relationship with a child, and to begin with it feels taboo to try and build tenderness with a strange child. You know, it's like a very unusual requirement of what we had to do. But I remember the first time I tested with her. I think I'd thought, you know, well, I'm the older actor now, and I can take care of this young novice. And we did the scene, and I said to her at the end of the scene, I was like, Ana, that was very good, you know, that was a really good take. She went, thank you, Taron, you were very good too. and it was, and Nick and I, you know, were obviously on the Zoom, and it was just straight away that moment. It was like, you know, we needed someone who could kind of help run the set a little bit. You know, the character is audacious, strong, and resilient, and Ana just had it in spades. In terms of building the relationship,
I heard you guys did like lunges in between scenes and stuff.
It's just a stupid thing. I told her that if she wanted to be a good actor, she needs to lunge before we went for a take. But I think I was just trying to make her laugh, and I, you know, I'd go and spend time with her, and we'd hang out, and I'd go over to her house, and her mum would, you know, cut up fruit for us, and I'd sit on the floor with her, and we'd just play and talk about stuff. And but honestly, it came quite easily. You know, that's, I suppose, when they talk about having chemistry with someone, she and I had it. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes you really like a person, but you just can't quite connect with them. You know, there's plenty of people. You know, I was at a dinner party tonight. There are people at that party who I like, but I just can't quite talk to them because I can't find the common ground. And it just so happens that Ana and I have a nice rapport, and yeah. It was really magical to find that with someone, and I stand by what I said. I really do feel that of anything I've done, I've had some lovely on-screen relationships, but this one is really, really special to me because it felt things would just happen. Things would pass between us. You know, I remember in the trucker's chapel when she's dressing my leg, there's a line she says about her mum taking her to temple because she decided she wanted to be Jewish.
Yeah.
And it just, there was a moment, as I think it happened the first time we filmed it, you know, I became emotional because she was telling me something about her mum that I didn't know. And it was moving for him, and it's the first time in the movie where he's actually processed that this woman has gone. Because when Ana processes or begins to process the mother is dead, Nate can't, he's still in shock. He still can't quite get there, you know? But when she says this thing about, you know, the mum standing up for her at school with this dickhead teacher, it moves him. And something, the moment I became emotional, Ana started trying to distract me because she didn't want her dad to be emotional. So she was like, look at I remember her doing stuff, and like that kind of instinct in a child is it's quite an amazing thing. And so it's those little fibers at the center of the movie and that central relationship that I think probably contribute to why it means so much to me, because I know that for a time, we were those two people, and they did have this very special relationship. And it was a very short window of time. It was 5 weeks, but I will always hold that as something very dear to me.
I feel like we're all feeling that right now. It's so beautiful. I want to talk more about that instinct she has, because I know that you actually have two significantly younger sisters, which I think is
they
cool.
aren't as impressed by me as Ana.
as Ana was. But I want to talk about that moment in all of our lives, and it happens at a different time for all of us, when we become parents to our parent. And I was reading that you recently went back home to Wales. You're renovating your mother's house, and it made me reflect on when I go back home and how there's moments where I'm still my mom's child, and then there's moments where I feel like I'm my mom's mom. Yeah. And I feel like that vacillation is what's so beautifully illustrated in this film. And my favorite piece of dialogue is when Nate and Polly are at the diner and they've escaped all the chaos and survival of Charlotte's. And all Polly wants to talk to her dad about is love.
Yeah.
And, Nate's like, and not in like a fairy tale way, in like an achingly kind of grown up way. She wants it for her dad. And Nate's like, that woman has no business loving me. And she's like, love is not a problem.
Yeah.
How did you approach, the theme of unworthiness when it comes to being loved, especially as you're across from a child who could see the good in you when you can't see it in yourself?
I mean, it feels like a huge question. I think, you can only ever, I'm always a bit suspicious of when actors talk about characters that like they're a sort of spirit that they're trying to move towards, and that it's something that's removed from themselves. Because my experience of acting is that every character you play is always you. It's always you. And they might move differently, or they might speak differently, and they've clearly lived a different life. But you can only ever express, from my experience, you can only ever express you through the prism of a character. And I think, there's something about Nate's, he's kind of calcified, he's kind of closed off, and I find that something about that appealing, I suppose. I don't know what it is. And you're right, Ana has got this incredible, it's in the script, but she really understood that moment of seeing that her dad she saw that something passed between these two people, Charlotte and her dad, and she saw that her dad was closed. And for a moment, she tries to open him up, and it doesn't quite work out. But I don't know how I approached it.
No, it's good. And she's so innocent in that scene, and then we quickly see her lose her innocence when she picks up a gun and pulls the trigger. And like a very emotionally intense scene. Yeah. Where you're like, Polly, you're a good thing, and you guys are crying together. What was it like shooting that, and what were you holding in that moment?
Yeah, that was a wild night, and it was it's very intense to be in a moment like that with a kid, and for it to be so emotionally kind of volatile, and I'm upset and she's upset, but none of it's fucking real, and like it's weird, and you're kind of part going, I hope she's okay, but also this is dynamite, and you just but the thing about Ana is she's just very, very, she's got something to express. There's something in her chest that she needs to express to the world, and Polly was a really great vehicle for her to do it. And I think Nick is very good at creating an atmosphere, and I was very kind of I really wanted it to be not, there's as I mentioned earlier, there's a version of this movie where it is a string of fights that don't have a cost or a consequence. I get a bit of feedback. And I wanted that moment to really feel like it had cost. He doesn't want to kill anyone. He doesn't want to end anyone's life, even if they are the bad guys, and I think that moment where he has that, where he ends that cop's life, it's like, you know, makes me think of Harry Potter and the Horcruxes, you know, where your soul gets ripped in half. I know that's probably a bit of a lame reference, but
No, I love it.
But you know, I think there's truth in that. I'd imagine, you know, you do something that awful, that unspeakable, there's probably not really any coming back from it. And I feel like that moment where he does that is kind of like where he's, you know, it really is kind of over for him after that point. And yeah, anyway, I'm rabbiting.
No, I love it. I got to commend you for all the emotionally intense scenes in this film, because there's so many. And I was thinking back to the final scene in the film, which lives rent free in my head. And it was just so relatable to me.
Do you mean when she's dancing?
Yeah, where you know, where you have to show up and just be on, and you're not feeling like that.
Well, I didn't know.
In the moment.
I didn't see that. I didn't know. I wasn't there that day. So Nick had told me that he'd written a new ending for the movie, because there were various iterations of it. And he showed me this scene where, you know, she goes to the care home and the kids show her this dancing video game. And I thought, oh, that's nice. That seems cute, you know. But that was, you know, all I thought about it, really. I was, you know, I'm done. I'm out of it. But the first cut of the movie Nick showed me, and I saw that scene, and I just couldn't believe the magic it had. I don't know why. There's just something so moving about it. It sits in that place of being slightly unclear what's going on. It feels defiant. It feels bleak. It feels optimistic. And there's so many, I think if you can create something that sits in that place of ambiguity where you're not quite sure what's going on, because you can see she's a fighter and she's going to be okay, but you can also see she's irrevocably changed. And I think the reason moments like that in art are really special is because life is like that. Life is all, you know, that's my experience of things. You know, sometimes you don't know how to feel, and I think that is my. It's funny. I love the haircutting scene, and I love that at the end. Every time I watch it, it's incredible to watch Ana lost in this moment with that incredible track, and yeah, it's a really special, great ending to our film, I think.
It's such a moving scene. It's so good. I transparently, you know, I was moving through a lot personally on a subterranean level in prep for this interview, and I was just thinking, man, like, your job as an actor to like have to show up emotionally and not let the reality of your life seep into the character is like crazy. But I wanted to ask you about building Nate mentally and physically, because I heard you reached out to 3 different actors and you asked them for lists of films to watch in prep for Nate. And I was hoping you could tell us who you reached out to and what they told you to watch.
Yeah. So I think I felt that what this movie for me was a rare opportunity to do something that felt like really grounded, and it was a really interesting filmmaker and a cool script, and not, you know, something that was like, it's just wasn't an overtly commercial prospect as a film. So I think I felt like I was doing something that was very stripped back, and I really wanted to ask some actors I admire about, you know, what would be an interesting source of inspiration. So I sent I either text or emailed Stephen Graham, Gary Oldman, and Joaquin Phoenix, and asked them each for a recommendation. And Gary Oldman told me to watch Dustin Hoffman in Straight Time. Stephen Graham told me to watch Gary Oldman in State of Grace.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And Joaquin Phoenix sent me like more than I had. More than I could read.
Movies.
But it was, I think, if I'm honest as well, I was sort of trying to suck some of those guys' greatness, you know, and they all had qualities that I wanted. I think they all had qualities that I wanted Nate to have, you know. Stephen is kind of got that thing of being both, you know, of those 3 guys, Stephen is the one who is a mate, and I see, you know, and he's like both terrifying and intensely vulnerable, and Gary is just the world's most committed actor, and Joaquin's performances just seem to have a kind of, I mean, I hope you wouldn't mind me saying it, but there seems to be a degree of self-loathing that runs through the things he does, and that to me was an important feature of who Nate is. So yeah, I asked those guys, and yeah.
That's so sick. You just called Joaquin like that.
No, I didn't. I emailed him. I don't wish to overstate my connection to Joaquin.
He's incredible.
Very much
Eddington.
pen pals.
By the way, Eddington comes out tomorrow. You have to see it. I want to be respectful of your time. I have a couple more questions, but if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. If the guys aren't desperate to get out of it, but thank you very much for listening to me rabbit on. Yeah.
Just because I was actually thinking back to Joaquin's performance in Eddington, his unraveling and physicality is crazy. And you go all in when it comes to training for a role. Like you learned how to ski for Eddie the Eagle. You learned how to play piano and gained weight and shaved back your hairline for Rocketman and archery for Robin Hood. You are so ripped in this. Tell us about like the physical training you did to bring Nate to life.
It was the end of the writer's strike, and I'd gained so much weight because I've been sat around for months. So by the time the movie was greenlit and ready to go, I had about 8 weeks. And I just thought, I knew I was going to be running around in my underwear for a couple of days. So I thought I better diet and hit the gym. But I think he's like prison fit. He's a guy who's just been sat around doing bench press and very little else to do. But yeah, it's standard stuff.
Standard like so.
Standard gym.
I've heard you say that you feel like you run like a panicking duck before, and I wanted to tell you that your running with the injured leg in Slaptown was really good, I thought.
Did I say I run like a panicking duck?
Yeah, you did.
I do run like a panicking duck. It's like
but
that.
You look so
they
cool.
They both go out like that.
You look so cool while you were doing it because you had all these tats, and I read that you actually got to pick what the tattoos were, which were applied daily. And the safety pin stood out to me. The date you had here and some star with an A on it. Can you tell us the meaning behind one of them, maybe? Or
so the date is the day that his brother died. The date on his eye. Nick and I were very meticulous. Each one has a kind of has a little story. Some of them are done. Some of them were done when he was a teenager with his brother, so they were really crude and kind of feel like they've been done like I think it's called stick and poke style. I think with like biro ink. Some of them have been done in a parlor, so there's a real inconsistency in style. But the what we were hoping to achieve, because we knew what we wanted to do with the first scene, is the Blue Lightning guys. Their tattoos are much more hard-edged with kind of a darker overtone because of the gang's belief system. And Nate's supposed to look hard on first glance, but actually when you examine them, they're all pretty innocuous. They're like, he's got a couple of horses on his back. He's got the New Mexico chilies behind his ear. They're much more, they're kind of whimsical. They're just, they're the tattoos of a young man who's kind of trying to express himself in a crude way. So he's sort of, you're kind of meant to look at him and go, oh, that's a guy. He fits in well with these darker figures, but really it's a very different visual language.
Right.
Yeah.
And that must have been fun for you because I feel like you play a lot of real people on the big screen, and this is a fictional. Do you have a preference over playing fictional or non-fictional characters?
No, not really. It's just the way it's kind of turned out. I don't know why it has turned out that way. But yeah, it was nice to play a fictional character. And also this role, I think it just felt like something. I remember when I first read the script, I was like, they're never going to let me do that. They're never going to let me do that.
Really?
Yeah, I just thought, that's like Tom Hardy or, I don't know. I was really grateful for the chance to do it because it felt just kind of unlike anything I'd done before.
I love it. Well, you and I have something in common. We both love George Michael. I think Faith by George Michael is your go-to karaoke song. Isn't it crazy there's never been a George Michael biopic?
That is crazy.
Would you? No, you wouldn't touch that. I think it's so, and I'm going to wrap this up, but I think it's so wild that the biggest casting on the internet right now is James Bond. And I think it's crazy that you haven't gone for that because you would be a fantastic Bond.
I don't think I would be a fantastic Bond.
Really?
No, I don't think so. I think there's much better options than me. But it's very nice when anyone ever suggests you for something as illustrious as that, or suggests that it could be something you could take on. But I think my future lies in things that are a little more weird. I think I think I'm happier doing things that feel like they are odd, and I think when I was younger, I think I aspired to fit into a mold of what like a film actor should be or a leading man should be, and I'm shit at it. I'm not good at it. I'm good at doing things that are weird and funky and I hope diverse, and I'm really comfortable with that.
Well, I think you can play anything. I know you recently shot a film called Apex with Charlize Theron in the beginning of the year, so I can't wait.
No idea how weird that is. No one is ever going to look at me the same way ever.
I cannot wait for that.
No, I'm not entirely comfortable with how weird I am.
I can't wait to interview for that. Well, I know I speak for all of us when I say thank you so much for sitting down and talking to us.
Thank you for listening to me.
And we can't wait to see what you do next. I know your aunt has a cafe in Wales where she hangs posters of all the films you've been in. So I dream of going there one day and seeing She Rides Shotgun. But
it really means a lot to me. Thank you. I'm really proud of this movie, and it really means the world for you to come out and support it. I really, really mean that. Thank you.
So lovely to talk to you. And guys, it comes out August 1st. So please share your thoughts of the film with your audiences. Thanks, Taron. Woo!